Steve with the Youth Worker Journal at the National Youth Workers Convention in Cincinnati. Chuck Bomar walked up and said, Chap Clark said I need to come over here. Little did he know we were going to rope him into something like immediately. But Chuck is like an expert on college ministry, and so let's interrogate him about that a little bit. Hey, what's happening in college ministry these days?
What's happening in college ministry in general?
Yeah, or what's a trend, or what's something that makes you hopeful, something that makes you want to go shoot yourself in the head?
Okay, something that makes me hopeful would be that more and more churches want to do something for college-age people. And so that's asking a lot of questions. And there's not a lot of places that we can push them towards, which makes me want to shoot myself in the head.
Excellent. We're hearing about this emerging adulthood, where you've got guys who they don't graduate from college and leave to go to work. They kind of live at mom and dad's house for the next 20 years. I mean, is that a myth that we're making up, or is that for real, that there's people kind of longer living, that mom and dads are slower to engage either in marriage or careers? Is that happening?
Sure, for sure. Some of that, I think, in higher education has demanded that. So, 35 years ago, you could graduate high school and get a decent job, and now, of course, you can't. And that is delaying family life. It's delaying adolescent thinking. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean that they're not thinking like independent, mature adults until later in life. The average age of marriage for men is over 27. It's like 27 point something. How they come up with that, I'm not sure. And then for women, it's over 25. And in Britain, it's 31 and 30. So it seems like we're following in those trends, and people are waiting longer and longer to get married because they need to finish a degree before they get married. And it's, so I think it's happening.
And it seems to me there's some people who think college ministry is worthless because if we didn't capture them when they are younger, spiritually, intellectually, they're kind of too married to whatever their worldview is. And like college ministry is like, how are you going to reach these? Do you run into that kind of negativity or pessimism about college ministry, or you just carry through regardless?
Well, I've run into some of it, but I wouldn't say, if somebody says college ministry is worthless, then you have to say every ministry is worthless. I mean, you know what I mean? I just don't know. But I would say that some churches are saying that they don't view it as vital, which I would strongly disagree with. And I think that comes from a misunderstanding of what is happening today with what I would say is later adolescent thinking, and a lack of understanding of what's happening in our culture, where now high school graduates are just graduating and it's just the next stage of education. And they're just now beginning to think about life. And that's when we drop them. That's when the structures in our church don't have anything for them. And so I think if they do think that it's not vital, it's just a misunderstanding of what's going on. And from my perspective, I would say we're already 10 years behind what's happening.
And we hear a lot about transition. It's like, okay, we've had them in middle school and high school. What can we as youth workers do to kind of give them a faith that survives the transition to college? What do you think about, is that the right language, transition, or how should we be what's our paradigm for that kind of stuff?
Well, I'll give you an A paradigm and an indefinite article. I wouldn't say there's only one way. But I do think that there's a lot more discussion on what does it mean to transition them, and which is hopeful, because they're saying, okay, our job's not done just because they came to our program. We want to help them in the lifelong discipleship process, holistically, which is good. But I think one of the things is that I see a movement away from what I would say teaching just conclusions to helping students embrace and think through their own presuppositions that lead them to the conclusions. So sometimes you hear the word indoctrination or things like that. And the way I would word it is that we need to have less of indoctrination and more of imparting wisdom. And a way I separate that would be indoctrination would just be me teaching lessons about my conclusions, and you can go down a doctrinal statement and see conclusions. But imparting wisdom is saying, look, here's basically what we're doing is asking them to teaching a deeper commitment to the simple truths. And so we're helping them live out what they already know rather than giving them much more data. And that's how I differentiate between indoctrination and imparting wisdom.
I like the sound of that. But like if you're teaching indoctrination, you can do the checklist. You can tell if you're successful.
You can measure it.
How do you tell if you're successful in imparting wisdom?
Well, you can tell you're successful in imparting wisdom when you pay the price of time and you begin to see it play out in the life of an individual. We get frustrated in youth ministry because we take kids to the camp and they have a mountaintop experience and then they're gone. We put so much time and energy into getting them to camp, but so much less walking with them after camp, and then we blame it on the kids. So it's about giving them information, and that's the way we define educated, right? You can regurgitate information. That's an educated individual. That's American. That's not biblical. And that's where we need to move towards imparting wisdom of saying, look, you already know some information. How do we help you live that out? Rather than heaping more, possibly even judgment on you by giving you more information that you're not going to get. And just simplifying things, not making it shallow, but imparting wisdom and connecting people. The paradigm, I think, leads to intergenerational relationships, and I think that's a huge part of identity formulation, especially during college age years. But even prior to that, we're giving them people that are living wisely and living out those things that they say they believe, which the kids need to see. And so I think that's a paradigm, it suggests, right, that we need to see more and more of if we want kids to leave our youth groups with a foundation, not just a bunch of conclusions, and maybe just a religious conscience because of the data.
Yeah.
That sounds really philosophical, but
I like that.
Anyways.
Final question. Let's say we got a person who maybe they're a youth worker, maybe they're a pastor, and they are feeling they need to do more with college-age people. What's a thought or two you might share with them to set them in the right direction? In addition to your website, which we will plug here in just a second, but I mean, how do we get them going in the right direction if they want to do that?
Well, I would say if you're doing something for college-age people, you don't need to do more. I think a lot of times we think about doing something for college ministry, and we think about a youth group on steroids of some sort. And I like to flip it, and rather than saying have a college ministry, that you would have a ministry to college-age people. Meaning, you would minister to the hearts and minds of college-age people, and you walk them through what it means to assimilate from student life to adult life. Not youth group to church service, but student life to adult life. And all we need to be doing, and I would say all that college-age people really want and certainly need, is to be walked with in some specific areas that they're thinking through, and help them think less like a student and more like an independent adult, and we walk with them through it. So, very simply, there's no budget needed, there's no program needed, you just need some people that want to love on college-age people, and be willing to sit down and walk with them through the issues they're thinking through, like identity. Now, that's not a issue, it's the issue that they're thinking through, and help them process through some stuff in life. And, I mean, obviously, it's too much for an interview, but generally, you don't need to do a ton. You just need to have some older believers that spend some time with college-age people.
I like that. And the website we're going to plug is what?
collegeleader.org.
Collegeleader.org. Yeah. Okay. Well, Chuck, thanks for stumbling by and being part of our experiment here.